Join Barbara Mandrell and sisters Louise and Erlene together again in a sparkling special, exploding with holiday music and magic. A Barbara Mandrell Christmas.
Holiday fun never stops on Channel 1. Tonight at 9 o'clock, join everyone's favorite half-robot, half-horse, half-cop, RoboClop, for a Hanukkah celebration. It's the case of the missing menorah. But coming up next, join that scurvy dog of VHS collecting, Captain Adam, as he explores some Christmas specials. It's a Captain Adam Christmas. Coming up next on Channel 1. Season's greetings from Channel 1. Join the fun on Channel 1. Channel 1 is proud to bring you a special presentation. A Captain Adam Christmas is brought to you by Cowboy Pork Chops. Anytime's a good time for the great taste of Cowboy Pork Chops. And by Eckhart Retirement and Investments. Eckhart, think about the future. Careful now. I'm not sure if that is eggnog. Hey, there's tinsel in the bean dip. Oh. Greetings, mates, and welcome aboard the VHS Pirate Ship, and welcome to my Christmas party. Looks like the gang's all here. We're just waiting on one more. Merry Christmas! Hey, little creep, you made it. Sure, I wouldn't miss your Christmas party. Well, I'm certainly glad you're here. I'm glad to be here, too. Say, did I miss today's episode? Nope, you're just in time. Speaking of that, hey, VC Arnold. I am VC Arnold. Merry Christmas, VC Arnold. I am a VCR. The holiday greeting is not required. He certainly is a stern fellow. Geez, VC Arnold, can't you at least pretend to enjoy this? My CPU does not encompass the dynamics of human merrymaking. You know, I just don't understand him. Well, he takes his job very seriously. Do you know what today's episode is going to be? It's a Captain Adam Christmas. How convenient. So let's take a look. Oh boy, I can't wait for this. Me neither. It should be a good time, and I love Christmas specials. And I love spending time with you, Captain Adam. Thanks, little creep. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to all of you out there. Ho, ho, ho. Time for the show. Yar. Yar. Merry Christmas. Oh, Christmas time, hey, Christmas time, hey, thank you. I hope Santa brings me the He-Man thing with the slime, yes, thank you. Peace on earth, goodwill toward man, that's all fine and good, but I wouldn't mind that Voltron, you know what I mean? Hey, thank you, Merry Christmas to you, yeah. Yes, that's right, folks. It's Christmas time, the absolute king of the holidays. Yeah, I know, it's long since been commercialized, but you can't deny the splendid and sublime feeling of overwhelming joy that comes with this time of year. It's stupendous, tremendous, and it's a pretty big deal, too. Christmas is so huge that it even has its own genre of music. But when it comes to Christmas music, a lot of folks are pretty fucking picky. Fucking picky. And I am most certainly one of them. All of the modern stuff fucking sucks. It fucking sucks. If I had a time machine, I would go back and convince Mariah Carey to not record All I Want for Christmas Is You. Though I can appreciate her zeal, I absolutely cannot stand that song. And then I'd go a little further back in time and load up on Transformers and Madballs. Yeah, when it comes to Christmas music, give me the London Symphony Orchestra's rendition of Sleigh Ride and anything off the Jim Nabors Christmas album, and I'm a happy pirate. Not only does Christmas have its own genre of music, but also its own genre of film. And most of the video stores I've ever been in have had separate Christmas sections. Christmas on film just works. And of course, there have been television Christmas specials. Many of them. A cadre, if you will. And there's the three most famous ones: Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, A Charlie Brown Christmas, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And these have to be the holy trinity of Christmas specials. Christmas specials. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer first aired on NBC December 6, 1964, and is based on a short story by Robert Louis May. And it was published in 1939 in a booklet by Montgomery Ward, which up until the late 1990s was a department store powerhouse. Yeah, Montgomery Ward was a pretty big deal, and we all patiently awaited the arrival of the Montgomery Ward Christmas catalog every year. And this is where my dad bought me my TurboGrafx, something I most certainly appreciated but did not deserve. But anyways, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was made into a song in 1949 by Johnny Marks, who just happened to be Robert Louis May's brother-in-law, and the song would go on to be immortalized by Gene Autry, and this version is still played on the radio today. But before Rudolph was immortalized in song, he made his on-screen debut in 1948 in a cartoon short by Max Fleischer. Yes, the same Max Fleischer who was the animation innovator behind Betty Boop, Popeye, and the Superman cartoons. So the short story, the animated short, and the song all made Rudolph the newest Christmas character. And Rankin and Bass would proceed to make him a legend. Not only would Rankin and Bass make Rudolph a legend, but this television special would also make the animation style known as stop motion very famous. And this animation style would unofficially become known as claymation. And since Rankin and Bass utilized this animation style in pretty much all of their other Christmas specials, claymation would become synonymous with Christmas. And despite the fact of how popular Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was, this wasn't released on home media until 1989, which meant that if you wanted to watch it, and you totally did, you had to wait for it to come on television. And luckily, they would air this annually as part of a Christmas tradition. This was a big deal. Everyone would watch this, and you can bet your sweet bippy that my fat ass was parked in front of a TV every time this came on. Yes, it was a Christmas tradition, and having to wait for it to come on television made Christmas time even more special. Now, I think it's rather odd that they took so long to put this on VHS, but clearly this was a clever marketing ploy, because most of the other Rankin and Bass Christmas specials were released on VHS at the same time as part of a box set. Now, you could buy each of them separately. It just made more sense to buy the box set. And once these were released on VHS, the Christmas floodgates opened, because they would all go on to have multiple VHS releases all throughout the 1990s. And the 1998 VHS release of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is actually a different cut of the film. Any of these VHS releases are very easy to find today and very cheap. They made a shit ton of these, and therefore they just aren't that rare. And anyone who says that they are, or tries to sell them as such, is full of Christmas shit.
Humbug!
And even the Max Fleischer Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer cartoon was released on VHS. But it's one of those really cheap cartoon cavalcade VHSs that you would find in McCrory's or Big Lots. You know, the tapes that would cost $1 and pretty much disintegrate after one viewing. Okay, so Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is really just the tip of the Christmas iceberg. And today, we're going to take a look at some forgotten about and not so forgotten about Christmas specials and movies. And some things you might not expect, because it's today's episode of Captain Adam Christmas. So it seems that we all recall the most famous reindeer of all. And Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer not only turned out to be one of the most famous Christmas stories, but also one of the greatest Christmas specials. And Rankin and Bass really knocked it out of the park with this one. Yeah, I mean, it's just a great Christmas story, which is funny because at its core, the moral of the story is people treat you like shit until they need something from you. When you watch this, you'll notice that mostly everyone treats Rudolph like complete shit. Yeah, the other reindeer treat him like shit, Santa Claus is a total dickhead to him, and even Rudolph's own father is a complete asshole. But everything turns out okay, and it's a pleasant little Christmas special. And it's also a bit bizarre at times. Let's take the Island of Misfit Toys, for example. Okay, so it's an island comprised of toys that nobody wanted. And why didn't anybody want them? I mean, they're not that bad. I wouldn't mind a cowboy that rode an ostrich, a squirt gun that squirts grape jelly. Just put water in it. And Charlie in the box? Couldn't you just change his name? Okay, so maybe I'm being a bit too picky here, but still, it's just a bit odd. I mean, I don't understand why nobody would want these toys. But then you remember how much of a dickhead Santa Claus is in this, and you sort of start to put it together that maybe he's the one that thinks they're not good enough to give out to children. Oh, absolute bastard! Oh, and by the way, the Island of Misfit Toys is ruled by King Moonracer, a flying lion. Yep, a flying lion. Yeah, they just sort of put that in there, and nobody ever seems to question it. It's a winged lion in a Christmas special. What's the backstory there? They never tell you, so we never figure out why the Island of Misfit Toys is ruled by a flying lion. Yeah, it's a pretty unexpected fantasy aspect of this, and yeah, I know the whole concept is fantastic to begin with, but I think it's worth mentioning. And a few of the other Rankin and Bass Christmas specials, like Santa Claus is Coming to Town and A Year Without Santa Claus, contain some borderline sword and sorcery aspects. And you could certainly tell that Rankin and Bass really enjoyed what they were doing. And not to mention the very bizarre Rudolph's Shiny New Year, the sequel to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And being a sequel, this is supposed to take place after the events of the first Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Yet, in this, Rudolph is actually younger than he was at the end of the first Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So, I mean, are we just supposed to ignore that? Or I mean, what should we do here? I mean, I don't get it. Yeah, it's a pretty big continuity error, and we just sort of overlook it because it's a Christmas special. Well, actually, as the name implies, this is a New Year's special. A New Year's special? Nobody cares about New Year's, which is why Rudolph's Shiny New Year was nowhere near as successful as Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Yeah, I mean, nobody really gave a shit. And I think the timing of its release had a lot to do with that. You see, this premiered on ABC December 10th, 1976. And I mean, well, December 10th? People are still gearing up for Christmas. They're excited about Christmas, not New Year's. They don't want to hear about New Year's yet. And get this, in Japan, this premiered 3 years later in 1979 on December 24th. Yeah, Christmas Eve, a New Year's special on Christmas Eve. I mean, that's just a terrible idea. I mean, Christmas Eve is when the Christmas excitement is at its absolute zenith, and nobody wants to hear about New Year's. I think it was just bad timing. Now, if this premiered on New Year's Eve, then, well, it might be more of a hit. But premiering this before Christmas is sort of like having a Halloween special on Easter, or having some bullshit Earth Day celebration on the 4th of July.
Every day is Earth Day.
But regardless of all that, Rudolph's Shiny New Year is still a very bizarre television special, and it shows us that making a television special about New Year's is very hard. I mean, what do you got to work with? Basically nothing. So what are you supposed to do? So Rudolph's Shiny New Year isn't all that bad considering. And you really have to hand it to Rankin and Bass for actually making a New Year's special. They would pretty much be the only ones to do so. Yeah, it took a lot of stones to pull something like that off, and Rankin and Bass are arguably the kings of the holiday TV specials. Though they are best known for their Christmas specials, and boy, did they make a lot of them. But also, they did a stop-motion Easter special with The Easter Bunny is Coming to Town from 1977. And this has Fred Astaire reprising his role from Santa Claus is Coming to Town. And nobody talks about this. Nobody seems to remember this. And they did a Halloween special with Mad Monster Party from 1967. And this features the voice talent of Boris Karloff. And this just isn't any other holiday television special. This is an hour and a half long. So it's pretty epic. Yet, once again, nobody remembers this. And as I talked about in the last episode, they also did a Thanksgiving special with The Mouse on the Mayflower. And though these are forgotten about now, but Rankin and Bass certainly tried their hand at other holiday television specials. And even though Rudolph's Shiny New Year is a bit of a bizarre sequel to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, it's still a clever way to make a New Year's television special. And this was released on VHS by Vestron Video and again by Warner Brothers Home Video in 1992. And the Warner Brothers Home Video version would have multiple reprints all throughout the 1990s. And even though the Vestron Video distribution seems to be a little hard to track down nowadays, it does seem to go for an average of around 5 buckaroonies. The same goes for any of the Warner Brothers Home Video distributions. But then you'll have the occasional wise guy trying to sell this for around 25 bucks. 25 bucks? Really? Well, it looks like someone has been into the eggnog. Eggnog. And speaking of sequels to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Robert Louis May actually did write a sequel called Rudolph Shines Again, and it was published in 1954. So let's go back to the gazillion Rankin and Bass Christmas specials, and let's mention some that are totally forgotten about. And sure, these were very popular when they first came out, but for one reason or another, they just simply fell by the wayside. Like Nestor, the long-eared Christmas donkey, which first premiered December 3rd, 1977. And this is, as the name implies, about a donkey with absurdly long ears. And like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, this was a stop-motion animated special. And also like Rudolph, Nestor was based on a song by Gene Autry. And much like Rudolph, Nestor has an odd X-Men-like malformality. You know, I had somebody once try to explain to me how Rudolph was one of the X-Men, but I just kind of stopped listening to him. And this one is forgotten about mainly because I think everyone did themselves a favor and blocked this from their memories, because this is really fucking sad. Yeah, this is like G-rated tragedy porn. Sure. Everything turns out all right, but man, what a long, sad road it takes to get there. Jeez. And you know, well, most of us don't really like being brought down around Christmas. We'd rather see something a little bit more happy, which is why I think this Christmas special isn't as well remembered. Hey, people just don't like to be sad, okay? I do. Okay, except him. But, I mean, really, around Christmas, you don't want to be sad, so why would you watch this? And Nestor, the long-eared Christmas donkey, is not to be confused with Dominic, the Italian Christmas donkey, which is one of my favorite Christmas songs. And Nestor, the long-eared Christmas donkey, is narrated by a character called Steel Toe, who is one of Santa Claus's donkeys. And not only does he narrate the story, but he also explains to us how things work around Santa Claus's stables. And this is pretty neat because this is where they tie in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, so that's pretty cool. And I certainly go AP for cinematic universes. Now, as I mentioned, Steel Toe is one of Santa Claus's donkeys, which makes him a Christmas donkey. Another Christmas donkey. So between Dominic, the Italian Christmas donkey, Nestor, the long-eared Christmas donkey, and now Steel Toe, it seems like someone was trying to make Christmas donkeys a thing, but it just never took off. I'm not sure why it didn't. I mean, I like the idea, and who doesn't like donkeys? What a great ass. But that's enough about asses and sadness, which is the working title of my autobiography. Next we have The Stingiest Man in Town from 1978. And every time I read that title, I think it says The Stinkiest Man in Town, which is the title for my second autobiography. So anyways, The Stingiest Man in Town is a Christmas special done in the classic animation style. And it's a rendition of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And geez, that's the last thing we needed was one more of those. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the reason why nobody really remembers this Christmas special is that there's so many other Christmas Carol renditions that this one just got lost in the fray. Now, that's not to say this is a bad rendition of A Christmas Carol, which is one of my favorite stories, but it's just, I don't know, one too many. And this is pretty decent, and it does contain some pretty cool imagery. Oh my God! Yeah, this one's pretty neat, and it's too bad they never play it on television anymore. Next we have The First Christmas from 1975, and later on they started calling this The First Christmas, the story of the first Christmas snow. Now, I'm not entirely sure why they added all that. It sounds a bit wordy to me, but whatever. The First Christmas is another stop-motion Rankin & Bass Christmas special. Now, Rankin & Bass became best known for their work in stop-motion, but every now and again, they would throw us a curveball and give us something that was classically animated, such as Frosty the Snowman, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, and, like we just talked about, the stingiest man in town. But The First Christmas is another stop-motion animated special, and this one isn't very well remembered because, well, it's pretty forgettable. Yeah, there's nothing really remarkable about this one. There's nuns in it, and boy, I guess that's about it. Yeah, there just doesn't seem to be a whole lot happening with this one, and you compare this to your Rudolphs, to your Frosties, to your Little Drummer Boys, and this one just sort of falls flat. Up next we have The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus from 1985, and this is based on the book from L. Frank Baum. Yes, the mastermind behind The Wizard of Oz wrote A Christmas Story, which is kind of like if J.R. Tolkien wrote a story about the Easter Bunny. And The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus is another Rankin & Bass Christmas special that delves into some sword and sorcery aspects. And this would be the last Rankin & Bass special to be produced in the stop-motion style. And in Japan, this wasn't released until 1986 and went under the title Santa's Secret and Great Adventure. So why is this one forgotten about? It seems like it has a lot going for it. Well, I just don't know. You know how some people are. They're pretty fucking picky. Fucking picky! And all of these would be released on VHS by Warner Brothers Home Video in 1990 as part of their Holiday Treasures collection. Holiday Treasures? Shit, nobody remembers them. Well, there's nothing wrong with a catchy name to really pop your attention, and this would be the only time that these would be released on VHS, with the exception being The First Christmas, which had already been released on VHS in 1987 by ABC Home Video. So the lamest Christmas special out of all these is the only one with 2 distributions. Well, isn't that just perfect? And since these are forgotten about Christmas specials, the VHS for these must be very rare, right? No. Yeah, I'm going to go with no on that one. Yeah, these are pretty easy to track down nowadays and go for around $5 buckaroonies. So it would seem that the world of the Rankin & Bass television special is extensive indeed. But it seems like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman are the only ones that people give a shit about. But I think that I've harped on Rankin & Bass long enough, and if I say Rankin & Bass one more time, I'm going to shit. So let's take a look at the other 2 that make up the holy trinity of Christmas specials, and let's explore some other Christmas oddities. And the Christmas adventure continues when we come back. Hold on to your jingle bells, mateys. A Captain Adam Christmas will return. Yeehaw! It's Christmas time down at Cowboy Pork Chop, Choke and Puke Family Restaurants. So take a break from your Christmas shopping and come on down and rustle you up some grub. Get our world-famous fried fart basket, only $5. Or get yourself an armpit and cheese submarine sandwich, only $5. Oh, heck, it's Christmas time. We'll put candy canes on that thing for you. And just in time for Christmas, get yourself our new peppermint booger milkshake, only $3. And get a Captain Adam Christmas commemorative glass with the purchase of any value meal. And also, get yourself a Captain Adam Christmas plush doll, only $1.99. Ho, 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 and yeehaw! Merry Christmas from Cowboy Pork Chop's Choke and Puke Family Restaurant. That's right on the corner of Route 25 and Get a Whiff Boulevard, right beside Bill's Dirty Mattress Outlet. Yeehaw! Merry Christmas and happy holidays from everyone down at Cowboy Pork Chop's Choke and Puke Family Restaurants. Cowboy Pork Chop not responsible for death or illness. It's the PWF Holiday Heat, only on pay-per-view, Sunday, December 20th. Don't miss any of the action as Conan Pepperslaw takes on Big Dump Ferguson for the PWF World Championship title. And the Russian Crusher, You Can Fuck Off, takes on the plumber that's got your number, Lex Auger, in an eyebrow match. And don't miss the Czars of the Boxcar, the Hobo Connection, Burn Barrel Daryl, and Dog Food Dude Parker taking on Patrick Fitzgerald and Gerald Fitzpatrick, the openly gay Irishman, for the PWF World Tag Team Championship. And the action continues as the party animal USA Kegs teams up with the Iron Sombrero, Dirty Sanchez Robusto, to take on Awful Benny Rancid and Skidmark Calhoun. And Pit Stain takes on the nun that's number one, Mr. Sister. And Big Chief Melkanelk takes on the Spanish Flu, Gabriel Rodriguez, in a steel cage. And don't miss the 20-man over-the-top rope fake beam battle royale. It's the PWF Holiday Heat, only on pay-per-view December 20th. Don't be left out in the cold. Call your local cable provider today. It's the PWF Holiday Heat. Ho, ho, ho. Sleigh ride straight to hell. Good evening. And tonight on Channel 1 News at 11, these 3 facts about ducks could save your life. And the Vatican's official take on fruitcake, as tonight at 11. We now return to A Captain Adam Christmas. So there are many, 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 many Christmas specials, and no one has more than Rankin and Bass. Oh, told you. But of course, there were others who were in the Christmas special game as well. And man, there sure are a lot of them. And when I was a kid, if something had a cartoon, you can damn sure bet that it would have a Christmas special. Yeah, everyone from the Smurfs to Yogi Bear to even Pac-Man had their own Christmas specials. Oh, hey, look, Casper the Friendly Ghost even had a Christmas special. And speaking of Casper, I always thought that was a rather odd concept for a cartoon character. Well, quite frankly, because it's really a dead kid. Jeez. Yeah, I mean, come on, he's a ghost. And ghosts are spirits of dead people. But anyways, the point is, he had a Christmas special. So let's move on, shall we? And the concept of the Christmas special would not be lost on Charlie Brown and the rest of the Peanut Gang, because they would go on to have what is known as one of the most famous Christmas specials of all time, with A Charlie Brown Christmas, which first aired on CBS December 9th, 1965. And this is often regarded as everyone's favorite amongst all the other Charlie Brown specials by a wide margin. I mean, you got It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown and A Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, and those two just pale in comparison to this one. And not to mention all of the other Charlie Brown specials that nobody can really seem to remember. And that's because A Charlie Brown Christmas is certainly the most remarkable, and it really takes the cake. Takes the cake. And what's odd is, this is counted amongst the greatest Christmas specials, yet it's very minimalist. And not too much happens. It doesn't have any flashy animation or stop-motion claymatronics or whatever you want to call it. No, it's just a very simple and humble Christmas special with a lot of memorable moments, from Charlie Brown single-handedly rallying against the ever-commercialization of Christmas, to the poor little Christmas tree, to Snoopy eating a bunch of human femurs. Wait, what? Huh. Wow. To the Christmas pageant rehearsal where everybody loses their minds and starts dancing like lunatics. Yes, A Charlie Brown Christmas is a simple little Christmas special that means a lot to us. And what's odd is that this was almost never made. Yeah, apparently a lot of studios didn't want to take a chance on this, so Coca-Cola intervened and ended up co-sponsoring this production. Sort of weird if you think about it, that this was almost never made, considering how famous this thing became. And even after it was finished, CBS producers thought that it was going to crash and burn. Yeah, they thought it was going to be a slop flop simply because it did not have a laugh track. Laugh tracks were widely used on television programming throughout the 50s and 60s. And though laugh tracks were normally reserved for sitcoms, certain syndicated cartoon shows would use them, which is why the Flintstones had laugh tracks. And CBS producers felt that a lack of laugh track would make A Charlie Brown Christmas boring, and therefore nobody would want to watch this. I just didn't think it was possible to be so wrong about something. Yeah, I mean, the more you delve into this kind of stuff, the more you realize that producers really don't know shit. I mean, come on. Could you imagine a Charlie Brown Christmas with a laugh track? It would ruin the whole thing. But anyways, up until recently, A Charlie Brown Christmas was still played on network television. Yeah, that is until Apple bought the rights to it, and now you have to pay them to watch it via a streaming service. Perfect. Unless you got it on VHS, sucker! Yeah, I found mine at a thrift store for $0.25, so you can keep your streaming service, buddy. And of course, this was released on DVD as well, so if you have any of the home media releases, you needn't worry about the Apple Empire's monopoly on all the Charlie Brown holiday specials. Because, yeah, they did the same thing to It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown and A Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving, so fuck them. And speaking of the home media releases, A Charlie Brown Christmas was released on VHS and Beta in 1985 by Media Home Video. And it would also be released in 1987, once again by Media Home Video, only this time it was under their children's movie subsidiary High Top Video. And in 1991, it was released again, only this time it was released as part of a promotional package from the Shell Oil Company. And this was a limited time offer that was sold at participating gas stations. And so that must mean that this distribution is very rare today, right? Yeah, you'd think, but no, it's not. This is very easy to find, and you can find it for very cheap. And in 1994, this was released by Paramount Home Video along with the Laserdisc. And in 1996, Paramount Home Video would once again release this, only this time it's in a kid's clamshell. And any of these distributions are very easy to find today and very cheap. A Charlie Brown Christmas is certainly not rare. And that brings us to the final part of the Magnum trifecta of Christmas specials. And this one would take a horror movie icon and forever associate him with Christmas specials. And of course, I'm talking about Boris Karloff, which means that I'm talking about How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which first aired on CBS December 18th, 1966. And though Boris Karloff might seem like an odd choice for narration on this Christmas special, it just works so well, and clearly it was a good decision, and besides, this just wouldn't be the same without him. And it sure does make you wonder if other horror movie icons would have been good choices for other Christmas specials. I mean, could you imagine if Bela Lugosi did a Christmas special? Or Robert Englund? Or how about Doug Bradley? Doug Bradley played Pinhead in Hellraiser. Could you imagine that?
I have such sights to show you.
And then he just takes you to go see Christmas lights? It'd be fantastic. But anyways, How the Grinch Stole Christmas is based on the Dr. Seuss book of the same name, which was published in 1957. And this book was very popular, but the film adaptation gave it worldwide acclaim and also made the Grinch the newest Christmas character. And this would not only be a masterwork of Dr. Seuss, but also for Chuck Jones, who was a director and animator for Tom and Jerry cartoons and a lot of Looney Tunes stuff. And now he has this very famous Christmas special under his belt. So, you know, Chuck Jones is pretty much responsible for most of the stuff we watched as kids. And though we sort of nonchalantly count this amongst the greatest Christmas specials now, this really was a very impactful Christmas special, mainly because of Boris Karloff. Now think about this. His most noteworthy portrayals of characters would have to be Frankenstein's monster, the Mummy, and now the Grinch. It's pretty bizarre, but it just works so well, there's really nothing to complain about. And did you know that you can eat lava, but only once? Oh, what? Wait, hold on a second. I'm on the wrong page. Hold on. Here we go. Hold on. Ah, here we are. Did you know that in 1992, there was a home video release of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, but it was completely different. And I mean completely different. Different in the sense that this was not an animated feature. No, this simply showed pictures from the book, and Walter Matthau reads it to you. Why make a video of this? It seems like they could have just put this on an audiobook. Seems like they went through a lot of extra steps here. I don't know, I guess it is pretty neat, but I can't help but think that if you were to get this by mistake, thinking you were getting the animated film, you would be immensely disappointed. But if you wanted to see for yourself, This tape is actually pretty easy to track down nowadays, and the original animated film was released on VHS in 1986 by MGM Home Video, and this release is under their kids subsidiary Video Kids, or Video Kids, or Video Kids, I don't know. There it is. And it was released on Laserdisc in 1986 as well. And it would be released on VHS again in 1988. It was released again in 1992. And again in 1994, and it would be released again in 1996 in a kid's clamshell. Yeah, this had numerous VHS releases, and it is absolutely not rare, with the exception being the 1986 distribution, which is pretty hard to track down. And the 1988 distribution is a little tricky to find as well, mainly because it looks very similar to the 1992 and 1994 distributions. The main difference being the label on the tape itself. See, the 1988 has the silver glossy sticker, and the other ones do not. But still, no matter what distribution it is, people sell them for very cheap. And so that briefly sums up the three most famous Christmas specials. And one thing they have in common, other than being massively well known, is crucial soundtracks. Yeah, the music from all three of these is just straight up Christmas gold. The music is a tremendously important piece to all of this. The soundtrack to A Charlie Brown Christmas just makes the whole thing. And would Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer really be the same without Burl Ives? And the song You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch is played on the radio as part of their Christmas music repertoire. In fact, and you might have noticed already, that songs from all three of these Christmas specials are played on the radio at Christmas time. So not only are these three Christmas specials very memorable, but they also gave us new Christmas music. So I'm sure we all know these three Christmas specials very well, and they certainly are not obscure. But are there obscure Christmas specials other than the ones I mentioned earlier from Rankin and Bass? Oh, damn it. Yeah, there are several that they used to play annually on network TV for numerous consecutive years. But for whatever reason, they stopped showing them and these specials just kind of faded into obscurity. Well, I mean, sort of obscurity. I mean, we all know A Garfield Christmas, which first aired on CBS December 21st, 1987. And I was surprised to learn that this actually continued to air on CBS annually all the way up till 2000, but then they dropped it like a bad habit, and I'm not entirely sure why. This is a very delightful Christmas special, and though they no longer play this on network television, it was immortalized on VHS in 1991, though trying to find it nowadays can be a little fucking tricky. For which I am very glad to have this in my collection, because wait till you see what this sells for nowadays. Holy sugar plums! $70? $25? Well, I guess that's a little more reasonable. And you know, I might pay $20 for this if it didn't have fucking writing on it. Look, if you're selling a VHS tape for $20, at least wipe the writing off. And then we have A Muppet Family Christmas, which first aired on ABC December 16th, 1987. And I have absolutely no idea why they don't still play this. It's tremendous. And if you're a Jim Henson fan, well, this is for you, because this not only has all of the Muppets in it, but also the gang from Sesame Street and Fraggle Rock. Yeah, this is like the Avengers of Muppet specials, and even Jim Henson himself is in it. He makes a cameo at the end. And this would be released on VHS several times throughout the 1990s, including 1998, in which it was released with a Kermit the Frog toy. And this is the one that I have in my collection, and regrettably, no, I do not have the Kermit the Frog toy. And what's interesting about this home media release is they actually omitted some things that were on the original broadcast. And these parts included songs they did not have the home media license to. I know it doesn't make any sense, but that's what it is. So unless you recorded this directly off television, none of us have the original version of this. But that's okay, because I'm still happy to have this. This is an awesome Christmas special. And that brings us to another Jim Henson Christmas classic, Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, which first aired December 4th, 1977. And this, unlike the other Muppet stuff, isn't a Jim Henson original. No, this is based on a children's book by Russell Hoban. And if you're like me and ever wondered why Emmett Otter was never used in any other Muppet production, well, That's the reason. Jim Henson only had the rights to use the main characters in this Christmas special, which begs the question, is Emmett Otter and the rest of the Frogtown gang even Muppets? Well, let's get technical here. Just because Jim Henson does a production does not make it a Muppet. I mean, he did The Dark Crystal. Would you consider those characters Muppets? You could, but you'd be wrong. But hey, it's Christmas. I don't want to argue, but some of these sub-characters from Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas did make cameos in the Muppet Movie and the Muppet Show, and Kermit the Frog makes an appearance in this, so Emmett Otter and the rest of the Frogtown gang may not be actual Muppets, but it's close enough. And this has a lot going for it. It has pleasant little characters, a pleasant little story, delightful songs. Why don't they play this on television anymore? Because television sucks. But this would have numerous VHS releases. The first one was in 1982, and this one is very hard to find nowadays. It would also be released on VHS in 1989, 1992, and 1996. And these three distributions are a bit easier to find, the most common one being the 1996 distribution. And then we have Will Vinton's Claymation Christmas Celebration, which first aired on CBS December 21st, 1987. And actually, this premiered right alongside A Garfield's Christmas, and these two would be aired back-to-back for several years. But not for too long, because A Claymation Christmas Celebration was dropped like they were mad at it. I do not have the slightest idea on why they do not still play this on television. This is an awesome Christmas special, and I'm going to go ahead and say that this is the most underrated Christmas special of all time. And Will Vinton's work did seem like it was getting over pretty good, but then for whatever reason it just kind of stopped. Because not only did he have this Christmas special, he also made a Halloween special and an Easter special, which are even more obscure than the Christmas special is. And this Christmas special featured the California Raisins, which is pretty strange to think about now, how popular they were back in the late 80s. I mean, they were just singing and dancing raisins. Why were they such a hit? I don't know, but they were, and hey, I liked them too. And at the time, this was a major selling point for this Christmas special. But in effect, this does make this Christmas special rather dated. So maybe that's why they don't play this anymore? I don't know. I still think they should play this. This would go on to be released on VHS, but not until several years later in 1992. And though this Christmas special is rather obscure nowadays, the VHS sure as hell isn't. Yeah, it's pretty easy to find and rather cheap. I found mine for $5 and it was still sealed, which proves that just because something is obscure does not mean the VHS is rare and therefore expensive. Unless you're talking about Dolly Parton's Smoky Mountain Christmas, which is currently selling for $100. Wow. But I guess that makes sense. I suppose the VHS collecting Dolly Parton enthusiast is a bit of a niche market. Okay, so I think we've established that there are some relatively obscure Christmas specials. But are there any obscure Christmas movies? You can bet your Aunt Susie's ass can on that. Why, sure there are. And the one that really comes to mind would have to be Santa Claus, the movie, which was released in theaters November 27th, 1985. And what's strange about this movie is you never hear about it. They never play it on TV, no one ever talks about it, and yet, if you bring this movie up to someone, usually they'll tell you, oh, I remember that movie, I love that. So it's a forgotten about movie that everybody knows. Yes, it's a Christmas movie conundrum. And you know, I gotta tell you, this movie is pretty great. It's one of my favorites and it really sticks with you. And even though everybody says they love this movie nowadays, it actually tanked at the box office. Fucking tanked. But what do they know? I think this movie is pretty damn great and Dudley Moore is fantastic in it, and this has to be one of John Lithgow's more underrated performances. He plays the villain who gets launched into orbit at the end of it and appears to be fine, which we all know is impossible. But oh hell, it's Christmas time. We can increase our suspension of disbelief a little more. Now this is a great movie, but I gotta tell you though, like halfway through it, when Santa Claus comes to modern times, it kind of goes downhill for me. Yeah, I mean, that's when all the trouble arises, and I don't know, modern times just suck. In fact, it almost seems like it's two separate movies. And it's sort of like this movie contains its own sequel. It's kind of weird. So yeah, I love this movie, but when Santa Claus gets to the 1980s, I kind of just fall off. But it's still a great Christmas movie, and I still don't understand why they don't play this on television. Yeah, network television stations fawn all over National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and this movie goes under the radar. Oh, look, Christmas Vacation is on TV. I haven't seen that 1,000 times already. Oh, look, Elf is on again. Well, at least you're keeping your programming fresh. Hey, they're showing Home Alone on TV. No, get right out of town. They never play that. And it's not that I have a problem with these movies. It's just that they're way overplayed. Oh well, it's a good thing I have my VHS collection to get my Christmas movie fix. And speaking of that, Santa Claus the Movie was released on VHS in 1986 by Media Home Video. And that's it. That was the only time it was released on VHS. And since this movie is sort of obscure, I must have paid a fortune for the VHS, right? Nope, I paid $2. Yeah, you can find these very easily and for very cheap. I mean, come on. It's not like we're talking about Dolly Parton's Smoky Mountain Christmas here.
Big ol' money.
And so Santa Claus the Movie might be the most well-known, forgotten about Christmas movie. But when it was released, Marvel Comics actually did a comic book adaptation for this, which was featured in their Marvel Super Special number 39 and their Spidey comic of 85. So this movie was some pretty big shit, and it's still one of my favorites. So right about this time, you're probably asking yourself, how the hell can Captain Atom tie in pro wrestling to a Christmas special? Well, I'm gonna, and it all starts with No Holds Barred, which was released in theaters June 2nd, 1989, and was the WWF's first foray into filmmaking. Now, of course, No Holds Barred has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with Christmas, but let me explain. On December 27th, 1989, the WWF would show No Holds Barred on pay-per-view, back-to-back with an exclusive wrestling match that incorporated the main characters from the film. And this was promoted as a No Holds Barred Christmas. And this was a big deal. So yeah, the idea was the plot line from the film was to carry over into reality and would be culminated in this exclusive pay-per-view event. It certainly was a clever way to market this film, but this was a one-time only event. And if you wanted to have your own No Holds Barred Christmas, well, it just takes a little digging. Even though the movie and the event were not released on VHS together, you can find either one by themselves, and you just watch them together on the same night, and there you go. You have your own No Holds Barred Christmas. But, like most things in life, it's easier said than done. Because while No Holds Barred is relatively easy to track down on VHS, the match part isn't. No Holds Barred was released on VHS in October of 1989 by RCA Home Video. You can find this nowadays for relatively cheap prices. However, since it's wrestling related, you do have those who try to sell it for outrageous amounts. $60! Yeah, because if you collect wrestling tapes, then you're no stranger to these prices. And the match from A No Holds Barred Christmas is no exception. This match was eventually released on VHS in 1990 on the first WWF Super Tape. And this is sort of hard to find. And if you do find it, whoa, $80? Really? Wow. Yeah, old wrestling tapes go for kooky prices. So maybe having your own No Holds Barred Christmas is a bit tricky. Or you can just look it up on YouTube. And of course, the corresponding videos were released on DVD, but I don't want to talk about that. And so, we've reached the end of our little Christmas adventure. I certainly hope you've enjoyed today's episode. It sure has been a festively fun time, exploring the realms of Christmas specials, both well-known and not so well-known. And sure, I've left a few things out, but you know, I gotta save some stuff for next year's Christmas special. And this will be the last episode of the shitty year that was 2020. But I sure do look forward to the adventures ahead of me in 2021. So be sure to hit subscribe and stay tuned to Captain Adam's VHS Pirate Ship. And whether you're going to have a Merry Christmas or a No Holds Barred Christmas, I hope it's a good one. And I'm going to end today's show with the Orc Choir's rendition of Ding Dong Merrily on High. Are you ready, fellas?
Chivalry.
Okay, and go.
Ding dong merrily on high, in heaven the bells are ringing. Ding dong merrily on high, and make us man flesh sandwiches. Go. stepped on my foot.
Fellas, come on, it's Christmas. Come on. Oh, well, what are you going to do? Merry Christmas, everybody.